Okay, welcome to another exciting episode of Tell Me About It. Today joining us is Anthony, and Anthony is my brother-in-law. Welcome, Anthony. And Anthony did a bike race across the United States. Anthony, could you tell us about that? What was that all about? Where did you start and where did you go to and how long did it take and things like that?
Um, my friend Nathan, he's from Missouri, lives here in Portland. He put it together. The bike race or the bike route originated in 1976. Two couples, Greg Sipple and his wife, rode the route: Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, and Virginia.
And so
Starting,
was your friend the reason that you knew about this race in the first place?
yeah, he put it on.
Hmm.
He put it all together and everything. Looked at the ACA maps. Growing up, he did a lot of mountain biking, and he did the Tour Divide, which goes from Banff, Alberta, Canada, to Antelope Wells, New Mexico, along the Continental Divide,
Wow.
and all. Uh, he did that first, and then Trans Am and the in the that race have a intersection point in Wyoming, so there's a little bit of connection there between the two.
Now, do you happen to know what goes into planning a route? I mean, are they considering elevation and towns that you go through, or what kind of helps them determine what's the best way to go?
Resources mostly, being able to resupply at a reasonable rate, and uh, how much can you carry? What's your comfort level? On the Trans-American bike route, it's about, on average, 60 miles between each stop. So at a 10-mile-an-hour pace, it's only going to take you 6 hours to get to your next town. There are some areas that might be closed at certain times of the day because they're small towns. So
So is
you just
that
got
60 miles about how far you would go in a typical day?
my average whenever I did it, my time from Astoria to Yorktown, Virginia was 59 days. The average pace is about 90 days in total.
Mm-hmm. So you made some pretty good time.
Yeah, my average was pretty much 100 miles a day. My
Wow.
longest day was 154 miles, and my shortest day was 40.
And how many hours is that for a day?
Um, on my part, it
Yeah, so
was
like on your longest day, how many hours were you pedaling
that's probably about 20.
in one day?
Yeah,
Wow. That's grueling.
yeah. So I mean, riding through the night. I mean, you wake up, you ride through the night into the next morning. You stop at some 24-hour gas station. You get some supplies, and whenever I say resupply points, so you're not always going to the grocery store. A lot of the time, you're refueling, and by refueling, I mean you're getting donuts and chocolate milk and things like that at gas stations and just
Yeah, because
snacks.
I think you had mentioned to me before that you really didn't go through any very big towns. Maybe what you said, like Missoula was maybe one of the bigger ones.
Missoula, you don't go through Springfield. You go through Pueblo, Colorado. Uh, Pueblo, Colorado is really the last big town that you go through until you get east. There's a couple of small, big college towns in Virginia and Kentucky, but that's it.
Did you have any favorite stops or towns along the way?
Uh, Du Bois, there's a
Iowa?
in Wyoming, Du
Oh,
Bois.
Wyoming.
They have the world's largest jackalope, and it's pretty scenic there, and just the people are always welcoming. Whenever I did the race, I had mechanical failure shortly before town, and I contacted a welder there in town, and they had me on the road. The next morning, I had a crack in my frame from the bike falling over, so uh, they got me on the road the next day, and I was able to finish. So
And didn't you tell me once that there was a pretty kind of unique bike shop somewhere in the middle, maybe Kansas or something?
yeah, Newton Bike Shop. They no longer are there, but
Mm.
that was a really unique experience. They're in the movie Inspired to Ride, James and Heather Barringer, and uh, they had a hostel. And in 2014, I did the bike race. In 2015, I moved to Kansas and uh, lived there, and I was working and doing support for the um, team and everyone coming through at the time. So I got a ride out on ride in there and show them what the shop was. We'd wash their water bottles and feed them and get them on the way and everything.
So you found out about this bike shop on the race, and then later you ended up working there.
Yeah, was, they reached out to me in the winter 2014, and then we talked about it. And then the spring, I caught the bus out there, and we rode all over the state, and it's really flat. And
Yeah.
so Flint Hills are really cool.
So what equipment did you have with you on your bike?
In 2014,
Yeah, when
I,
you were doing the race. Like I imagine you must have had like some camping gear and some bike gear and all kinds of stuff, right?
I had I was pretty loaded. I had panniers and everything. Is where all the other guys were running really streamlined bike packing bags that have become pretty popularized over the last few years and stuff like that. There's been a lot of growth, especially since last year. The bike industry's boomed, but I carried a tent, a sleeping bag, air pad, water filtration, and you don't really need water filtration unless you're. It's nice to have. It's peace of mind, but for the Trans Am route, you're pretty much good. There was only one time whenever I had a little bit of trouble with water, and it's just because it's like I moved for out of that day is eastern Colorado. Yeah.
So you were camping most nights?
Most of the time, yeah. So I did have a cook stove set up, all that, battery pack, so it was not running a dynamo front hub for power. It was a 3x8 21 speed. No, sorry. Um, yeah, it was a 3x8 for gearing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember what my range was on the cassette. Had two rear lights. Um, had six bags in total. And
Any idea the weight of all that?
it was, and it's fun. You can go over the truck weigh stops
Mhm.
and you can figure out how much your bike weighs and how much you weigh on it, and then subtract the difference or whatever. My bike weighed about 50 pounds.
Mhm.
And now I've reduced that weight. Whenever you're touring or whatever, and you get to learn, and everyone rides at their own comfort level. So you carry whatever's comfortable for you, and that's okay.
Yeah. Did you have a specific place kind of mapped out where you were going to camp each night, or did you kind of just wherever you ended up? Like, how did that work?
I tried to map it out to where, yeah, I knew where I was going to go each
Hmm.
night. But the more you do stuff, the more you get comfortable and you see a spot. Oh, I can go over there. I can go over there.
Hmm.
But sort of stealth camp, but it's nice to know where you're gonna go, where you're gonna rest your head that night. And with the Adventure Cycling Association maps, you're able to, they have sets that come in sections, and you're able to see how many miles it is between each point, and they have all the resources available annotated by icons on the maps, and you can look them up at adventurecycling.com.
Mhm. So what would you say was the best part about doing this race, and then also the worst part about doing the race?
Best part about doing it, we have got to experience it every year since then, pretty much in some way or another. Taking part in with a media card, going out, taking pictures of the racers going cross country, chasing them, and seeing people push themselves to the limit and doing the media card thing. We dubbed it sort of the tour of self-discovery, and it's interesting getting to see people, and there's trail angels out there that'll just come out and help you, and just random people with the greatest heart. And you never expect the random person walking out of the store where you're sitting there eating a sandwich down in the dumps on in a bad day on the tour, and they pick your day up, and then it turns around. It's all
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm. And what was
It,
maybe the less enjoyable side of the trip?
the getting close towards the end after a long trip like that, kind of just want to keep going, is you find peace with uncertainty, because there is sometimes that uncertainty of you don't always know where you're going to sleep that night or whatever, because sometimes you do have to go 10, 20 miles further, whatever. So you just want to keep going. And then it's the end of the route, but you can keep going, and you can do short overnighters, you can do weekend trips. There's lots of different state parks out there that have hiker biker accessibility, and for the hiker biker campsites, they're also discounted if you ride your bike there set up with some camp gear, and they'll usually accommodate for that.
Now when you finished the race, was there like a moment of elation, or was it just kind of like just another part of the trip, or was there did the end of it feel significant, or was it just kind of one moment in the whole rest of the trip?
it it was emotional. I mean, getting to see every bit of geography of the country, pretty much, besides some of the desert to the south. And I mean, there's other stuff in the country. There's plenty of other geography to see, but it was emotional. It was it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was a feeling of accomplishment,
Yeah, absolutely.
and uh, finished in the afternoon, and just rode my bike up to the Victory Monument in Yorktown, and I put it at the base of it, and I climbed up and I sat on it with some stranger. I went down to some bar and got a sandwich and got a beer, and went to the motel, and there was a Trader Joe's nearby, and there aren't very many big grocery stores after Pueblo, Colorado.
You probably
Especially,
slept pretty well that night.
yeah, yeah. So
Well, do you have any like kind of major takeaways from the trip, or if somebody came to you and said that this was something that they were interested in doing, what would your advice be for them? What would you tell them?
do it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there
Do
anything they should be doing to prepare or advice you'd have about that?
it. Check out bikepacking.com. There's a lot of resources on there. Neil, the guy that runs it, he's amazing. And they do a lot of good stuff. They do a lot of advocacy. Yeah, resources there. Adventure Cycling Association, check them out. And everything, yeah, right at your own comfort level. And then as you discover new things by writing with people in the community, you'll learn new different ways to carry things. And because there's all sorts of different ways to carry stuff. If you want to go do a camping trip or just go do a picnic trip to the river or something for the day. And yeah, definitely right at your own comfort level. Um, and some panniers in a rack. Uh, make sure you got some good tires. Drivetrain is solid. Your shifting is solid. Make sure all that's good. If you want to check out some mechanics, YouTube or tools, there's a bunch of great information on there.
It's probably good to be able to work on your bike yourself, not be totally, have no knowledge about that, I would imagine.
Yeah. Some general, whenever you're going on a big trip, on a back roads or a big trip, it's good to know some at least basic mechanics. So,
Was there much support available for you if there was something that you needed during the race, or were you kind of on your own?
no, the race is completely self-supported, no outside support. Any any resource that you use on the race has to be available to every other racer. So no support vehicles or anything like that. So motels, gas stations, restaurants. You can use post office and you can order things and have them sent to a post office and have them waiting for you. But then you
Hmm.
have to schedule out your speed and everything to be able to make it to the post office while they're open if you're riding through the night into the day. Into the night.
And I would imagine also probably it would be good advice that a cross-country bike ride not be your first bike ride. You should probably
Yeah,
do some preparation beforehand with your
go
physical preparation.
yeah. There are, if you're curious about your sizing or anything, there are people who do bike fits in your community. So a physical therapist would know where to get a bike fit done. Um,
Does that mean like making the bike the right size for your body? Is that what that?
yeah,
Yeah.
most a good bike shop will be able to fit you to a bike.
Mhm.
So yeah, with COVID and bike shop availability right now, bike, a Kona bike right now is a couple of months out if you try.
Yeah.
Yeah, do some rides around town and for route planning and stuff like that. And Ride with GPS is a wonderful Oregon-based GPS data company. They have a subscription. They also have a free app on Google Play, all that. Can download for free. I use it all the time. It works great. They have heat maps on there too, so you can see where other people are riding. That way, you know where is sort of a safe area. So if all the other people are riding it, it's probably safe. Um, Google Maps also has a feature where you can click and they'll turn on the greenways, and greenways are local areas in your community that are dedicated to pedestrian infrastructure, like cycling and walking or running. So uh, there's that as well. There's always Strava. Yeah, I always use Rider GPS. It's pretty much the same as just local design.
Yeah, and I remember when you were doing the race, we could actually go online and see where you were because you had a GPS with you. And that was pretty cool to be able to kind of follow your progress as you went.
Yeah, Track Leaders. That's another cool site. And Track Leaders runs all the time. It was designed by one of the early Tour Divide racers, and we carry satellite transponders just like mountaineers carry for avalanche rescue. We're out and see our location whenever we're fighting for our own safety, and that's pretty much what it's for, is our own safety. But in turn, people get entertainment out of it by watching
Yeah.
location and seeing where we go. But also, in that sense, since people are watching, that's also improving our safety. In case anything happens, then someone knows our average speed or our average behavior if something deviates from that, and people know.
Yeah, so that they'd know generally where you were.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's pretty good. And there's a pause, so you can pause it whenever you're camping, get it going again.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And that's
cool.
tracking.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience and tips and information about what was involved. And congratulations on the accomplishment. I mean, that's quite a thing that probably only a handful of people have ever done.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.